Hi, folks. Welcome to episode 5 of Online Learning in a Hurry. I'm sitting sort of sideways crooked in my office right now because if you record back towards the window, you get sort of backlit and shadowy, which, might be good for some purposes, but not particularly good for seeing a fellow's face. I'm not sure how the audio is going to work. I don't have my regular laptop today, but this is what it's like to be out in the wild, I guess. Today, I want to talk about how that expression works, that I'm covering the content. And this is something I've heard 20 people tell me in the last 4 or 5 days. I've got to cover the content. I've got 3 more chapters in the book I need to cover. I have 6 lectures that I'm missing, so I want to record 6 2-hour lectures and put them on the internet. And I want to sort of take this apart a little bit and talk about what we're actually trying to do. First, there's a global pandemic. We're not going to be able to do things the way we normally do them. That's just the way things are. That's okay. Let's just move ahead and assume that we're allowed to do things a little bit differently this time, and that it's going to be okay because this is not going to create a precedent that we're going to have to follow in the future. Nobody's going to say, hey, you did this during the pandemic, so you have to do it now. That's not going to happen. So let's assume that we're allowed to try something different just this time. From a higher ed perspective, I had a great conversation with somebody yesterday who said they'd done enough grading by this point in the term, and they just had 3 weeks left, and they had some concepts they really, really wanted to cover. So they were going to do 6 lectures. I said, well, you don't have to talk about everything that's in the book. First of all, you're a faculty member. You don't have to use a textbook. You don't have to do anything. You get to choose what you're teaching. That's one of the really great things about how higher education system is set up, in the university at least. So you get to choose what you cover. In that person's case, I would argue that because you're not grading anything anymore, you can actually choose to just be interesting. So you can take the concepts that you think are really fascinating and you can really, really dial down and focus on them. And then you can go ahead and say, hey, students, I have this one concept that I want you to really talk about. And that's all we're going to talk about to the end of term. Because I really think if there's one more thing you can get out of this course, this is what I think it should be. And I really want to focus on that. Now you could say, well, if it's not being graded, students aren't going to come. Well, I would say that when everybody is locked in their house and looking for something to do, you have a captive audience. Now is the time for you to try and really dig in on a couple of concepts that you think are going to matter. So, I mean, same thing for K-12, right? So if you are doing math, years of doing first year advisement and student success tells me that algebra is absolutely critical for anybody who goes into the sciences end of a university or, truth be told, at a community college. So focus on algebra. Just do algebra. Try fun ways to do algebra. Go online and find really cool places where people are doing interesting things about it. There are a lot of really great ways to teach one thing, and you can keep cycling on it and have fun with it and encourage the students to learn. If you think of your students as people who are going to be punished for not knowing something, so you got an exam, they're going to test them, and you give them a piece of content, and they're going to have to respond to it. They're going to learn to obey and do what they're told, and that's what success is going to look like. In this case, you've got a chance to go past covering the content to saying, hey, what if I treated my students like they were potential or actual professionals, and I challenged them to do more, and I challenged them to use all this free time they have, not only to pay attention to the thing I'm getting them to do, but to push a little further and to go out and learn a little bit more and to dig in. Because, in a university, ostensibly, a lot of these people has picked your course because they were actually interested in the content. Not all the time, not all courses, but a lot of the time. What if you treated your students for 3 weeks like people who cared about what you care about in your field, and you really challenged them to reach that bar? And what if you looked at your K-12 students like the little creative brain creatures that they are and challenged them to go out and learn things in new ways and try to find out things they didn't know before and even try to teach you something? I don't think we need to cover the content. I don't think the concept even really makes sense, right? I mean, your students, some of them, if they pass with a 60%, by the regular argument of a university, that means they understood 60% of the content and we still let them in next year. So even if you miss 15 or 20% of the content because of this, and you take that time to focus on something interesting or really compelling, I don't see how that's going to hurt anybody. good luck, everybody. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and feel free to pass on cool solutions you find to the rest of us. Cheers.